Hey guys, Rob from Zborgaming here, and today we have another weapon guide for you, and today's weapon guide is on the AUG SMG. This is one of my favorite weapons in the game. One of my weapons I actually have gold. I probably have the most kills with it, and so with that, let's go ahead and get started and talk about the AUG. So the AUG is one of the first levels, first guns you unlock at level 1 right as you're starting out the game. It's available before you're able to unlock any of the custom builds. It has a max level of 57 and we give it an above average. It's an extremely good gun. However, it probably, as far as SMG, doesn't rate up there with the MP5. As far as the camo requirements down here in the bottom left, these are standard across the SMG class. And as far as the base stats, it has 55 damage to the head, 34 to the torso, and 30 to the limbs at the base range, which is about 0 to 12.5 meters for this weapon. It has a mag size of 25 bullets, a fire rate of 770 RPM, 769 right around there. Pretty quick ADS speed at 0.25 seconds. And as far as the non-damage stats here, it has a reload time of about 1.5 seconds, and you can speed that up to about 1 second with sleight of hand, which is pretty quick. So as far as the attachments go, we have them all listed out here with all their unlock levels. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go ahead and pause it here or head over to zborgaming.com and check out our Modern Warfare weapon infographics, where we have all of the infographics like this for every single weapon in Modern Warfare with all those attachments and unlock levels. So you can go ahead and check all those out there. We have a few loadout suggestions, but I'm not going to dwell on those a whole lot because I have a whole bunch more loadouts coming for you later in the video. I do a very extensive recoil study, show you some of the recoil properties of a variety of the attachments, so stay tuned, we're going to get into that here. So, if we talk some of the advanced statistics, the center column here, the AUG does have two different types of ammunition. It has the standard 9mm rounds and it has a 5.56 NATO conversion kit. So the stats are listed here for both of those. Now, I will say that the AUG was just recently nerfed a tiny bit on the 5.56 NATO rounds. At the closest range, all these values actually dropped by 1. Whereas this used to be a 50 damage headshot to where you could get a 2-shot headshot with the 5.6. You can no longer do that now. It's back to a 3-shot headshot, whereas the base still does a 2-shot headshot. So definitely take a look at that. I've updated all these with that recent nerf that they did to the 5.56 rounds, and that was not really mentioned anywhere in the patch notes. The one thing that the 5.56 rounds do, though, is they change the effective bullet drop-off range. So you can see here that they have that base range stays the same, 0 to 12.5, but the next drop-off is actually 40 meters for the 5.56 rounds and 20 meters for the standard ammo. So if we continue on, you have very fast movement speed at 97% and a pretty quick ADS strafe speed at 50%. The recoil pattern, there is some vertical recoil, and I'll show you in depth what this looks like. And the 5.56 rounds have a much stronger recoil, and you will be able to see the comparison here in a minute. It has pretty fast sprint out times at 133 and 234, and the base has a mag capacity at 25. Now, as far as the specialized attachments, you got 3 different barrels, 2 407mm barrels, a lightweight and an extended, and a 602mm long barrel. Now, the lightweight boosts that damage range by 20%. The extended barrel boosts that by 30%, but you're going to have a 3-frame slower ADS speed. And then the 622 long barrel has that same 3-frame slower ADS speed, but it carries a 4% movement speed penalty. So that drops you basically at the low end of the assault rifle range. So keep that in mind if you apply that 622mm long barrel. So you do have the ability to up the base 25 mag to a 32. There's pretty minimal penalty in doing that, so I definitely suggest doing that if you want more ammo. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the 5.56 rounds here. But this aiming recoil control, that increased vertical recoil, is pretty significant, and you'll see that here. The 60 round drum, take note that this comes with a 6% movement speed. So that 97% is going to drop all the way down to 91, and you're basically in almost the LMG range at that point. So it really slows you down quite a bit. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the idle sway here for the AUG. You can see that there is very little idle sway with the AUG. It has very, very good aim stability, so that's not really something you have to worry about with this weapon. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the recoil testing. We did our testing here on Candor Hideout, and unlike my assault rifle videos, if you've watched those, I did the testing here at about 18 meters, so it's right around this second column. Mostly because a lot of the SMGs have a lot shorter effective ranges, and so I didn't want to back it all the way out to 25. On the right here, if you want, you can pause the screen, take a look at the comparisons of the damage numbers, but note at this range, with the base ammo, you're going to do 40 damage to the head and 25 to the chest, stomach, and 22 to the limbs. So it's basically a 3-shot kill to the head, 4 anywhere in the torso, and 5 to the limbs at this range. And if you're using that 5.56 ammo, it's still going to be a 3-shot to the head, a 4-shot to the torso, but it will also be a 4-shot kill to the limbs, not a 5-shot kill like you would have with the base ammo. So at this range, you're pretty much going to kill someone in the same amount of bullets. Unless you're hitting limb shots, you're going to need 1 extra bullet. So here is the recoil comparison of the AUG base 9mm rounds to the 5.56 NATO rounds, and you can see here that there is a drastic recoil difference between the two. The vertical recoil is probably about twice as much with the 5.56 NATO rounds. So keep that in mind if you're looking to use those. You will get a substantial amount more vertical recoil. So looking at the barrel attachments, here on the left I have the base recoil that I tested, the 407mm extended barrel, and the 622mm long barrel. Now you can see the overall amount of vertical recoil was slightly less with the long barrel than the extended, which is what's expected because it should give you a little bit better recoil control. Now keep in mind that does come with that movement speed penalty. Now you can see here I did a second base recoil test, because the one thing I found, and you'll see going through the AUG, is that the base recoil pattern is extremely inconsistent for this weapon, more than any other weapon I've tested thus far. So you can see here where in the first base recoil test I did, it actually looks like putting a barrel on makes it worse. Now the second test I did, you can see the overall vertical recoil was worse, and so the barrels do look like they show an improvement. This is very weird with this weapon, and you'll see it's fairly consistent as I go through the presentation here. So now, like again here, this is just sort of showing the effects of the barrels. Now with that extended barrel, you will get a 30% range increase, but it does come with a 3-frame penalty to your ADS speed. You get that same ADS speed penalty with the 622, but a 4% movement speed penalty. However, that long barrel does increase your range by 45%. So this will pretty much take you out to around 20 meters on that base damage, which means you could get a 2-shot headshot with this long barrel at 18 meters, which is a great improvement, but keep in mind you're going to have a pretty substantial hit to your movement speed. So moving on to the muzzle and grip attachments, again here you can see that the base recoil pattern on one of my last tries was all the way up here. So knowing that it fluctuates within this range, you can see that the muzzle brake and the compensator, according to this recoil pattern, didn't appear to have much of an effect, but they do probably knock off about 15 to 20% of that total vertical recoil. The one thing I do want to point out with the compensator though, is that if you look right here, you got 10 bullets all in a nice tight pattern. And so you'll see that this is a attachment that I use quite a bit in the loadouts coming up, as it really has a pretty good impact when combined with other attachments on the AUG. The rubberized grip tape, you can see it did sort of narrow the overall pattern, but as far as the vertical recoil, it didn't seem to affect the vertical recoil a whole lot, or at least not as much as the muzzle brake or the compensator did. So moving on to the underbarrel attachments, these are what I would call more your stick grips. Your Merc foregrip, your Commando foregrip, and your Ranger foregrip all seem to perform fairly well when compared to that base recoil. Now you can see here again, it changed from prior screens. It sort of went straight vertical, and then you had a little pattern up here at the top. The Merc foregrip had a nice tight bunch here of about 7 or 8 bullets. The Ranger foregrip looked pretty good. It almost took some of that side to side out and just turned it into a straight vertical recoil. The Commando foregrip really seemed to tighten it up. It actually looks like it pairs fairly well with the base recoil on this one. And the Operator foregrip, again, also looks like it had a pretty nice profile here. Now keep in mind one thing though, is that the Operator foregrip does come with about a 2-frame ADS speed penalty, and the ADS speed penalties on the Merc foregrip and Ranger foregrip are about less than a frame, so you really don't even notice it. So we then, at this point, decided to take a look at some loadouts. So again, here I have that base recoil profile, and you can see, again, this varies from some of the other ones I already showed you. These two tests performed very well. This one I had a compensator. I decided to try the lightweight barrel because it still offers a 20% damage range, but only a 1-frame ADS speed penalty. So this is definitely a barrel you may want to consider. I paired that with the Ranger foregrip and the stipple grip tape. I use that stipple grip to help off-speed any of the other ADS speed penalties. And you can see I got a fairly nice tight bunch here of about 10 bullets all right on target. So that loadout performed quite well. I then paired the compensator, the 407 extended barrel, Commando foregrip, and stipple grip tape. And here you can see I got a great recoil profile. There's about 25 bullets and about 19 holes that I could find. So that was a very good profile. This is very easy to manage, not a lot of side-to-side kick, and a pretty tight vertical. So I'd definitely take a look at Loadout Test 2. You could compare this with an optic or maybe the 32 round mag or sleight of hand. So there's a lot of options here. Loadout Test 3, I decided to throw that 5.56 NATO rounds in. And you can see, if you remember from my prior slide, this is about a 40 to 50% reduction in the overall vertical recoil. So that definitely, that compensator, Commando foregrip, stipple grip, and tack laser really helped that recoil control, more so from the compensator and Commando foregrip. But again, keep in mind, if you use those 5.56 NATO rounds, you're really going to have to work on controlling that recoil. So we took a look at a couple more loadouts here. Again, the base recoil pattern, I like to throw that on there to give you a comparison. Earlier in my infographic, I have a loadout called the no recoil setup. This is how this one performed. You can see we had a pretty nice, straight, manageable recoil profile here, and several of these bullets are repeats. So you had this is a very solid build here. In this case, I put the F-Tac Ultralight Hollow stock on and sleight of hand. You could take sleight of hand out, put an optic in. You could throw that 32 round mags in there. Again, this loadout offers you a variety of choices as well. Decided to try a heavier loadout. So this one is not something you're going to want to run if you're looking to be aggressive and move around the map. We threw the 622 long barrel paired with that heavy stock, the Ranger foregrip, and the compensator. You can see we had a really nice tight pattern here, those first 5-6 bullets. So if you're on target with a quick 5-6 bullet burst, you will literally wipe people out with this build, but you're not going to be very mobile, so keep that in mind. Lastly here, I decided to start taking that compensator off and see what effect we would have. So I ran this, and you can see here that I started getting some more vertical climb on the overall recoil, but Using this build though here, I was able to fire off a pattern here using about a 4 to 5 round burst, so even though this has a little bit higher recoil, going back to that firing and burst mode, you can still get a really nice tight pattern. And I actually have a video of this coming up on the next slide, which I'll show you here. So here is firing that off with those bursts, and I'm sorry about the little sign here. It's not getting out of the way, but you can see that I'll go ahead and run that over again here. Oh, let's do this again. All right, round 3. There we go. So you can see that firing in that 4 to 5 round burst, you can still get a very tight profile. So regardless any of these loadouts you want to choose, I definitely suggest shooting that 4 to 5 round burst, and you will have no problem taking enemies down. The loadouts that I put here, in fact, I sort of picked 3 for you. So these are the ones that I would suggest you start with and then craft a little from here. So go back to that compensator Ranger foregrip. If you want to be a little more mobile with that lightweight barrel and the stipple grip tape, this is a great loadout. You can see we have a lot of bullets here. And keep in mind that all these loadout tests I do is with the trigger fully, just fully pulled, and I don't let off. So I allow the whole pattern to play out. You can see here that even just squeezing the trigger, letting it go, you can hit a whole bunch of bullets right on target, pretty much kill your enemy, and then move on to the next guy. So definitely take a look at these 3 loadouts. The no recoil setup, that loadout test 2 and loadout test 1. These only have 4 attachments, because that way I can leave the 5th up to you, whether you want to throw a perk in there, whether you want to add some additional ammo, or whether you want to throw an optic on. Maybe you want to go for a stock, maybe something lightweight so that you can add more mobility. Again, that choice is yours. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I've given you a whole bunch of options here, a lot of information about the AUG. Like I said, it's one of my favorite weapons. Here's one of my loadouts with that compensator, that foregrip on. Looks like I got some stipple grip tape here. And again, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I'll have another weapon guide coming out soon. Thanks for watching.